my
No,
slide.
okay.
It's always no pressure. Come and inspire us. Where do I start? Anyway, it is humbling to see so many women in the room. That's been my dream since ever I started and embarked on my technology journey. But also, what does Poland and France and science have in common? Marie Curie, the only women to have 2 Nobel Prizes in 2 different categories, the most famous scientist on the planet, and we should be humbled that she was born in this very city. So today, we're all descendants, you're all descendants of Marie Curie. So I started my career, I'm an old entrepreneur. I know I look much younger. It must be the makeup and the lighting. When I was born, actually, I was born in a time when my mother in France could not work without my father's consent. She could not open a bank account without my father's consent. It's not because of my father, but it was because of the rule and regulation in France at that time. So since 1964, I gave it away. I'm 54 next week. Things have moved on, and thank God. Now, when I started in technology, I started working for a small startup in the UK, and actually I traveled in this part of the world. I set up the whole of international sales in Eastern Europe in late 80s, early 90s, and used computers to actually do the first counting of the democratic election in Hungary for the first time in '92. And I got the technology bug. And why? Because I realized that technology was going to change people's lives. And this case was made very eloquently before. Technology will impact all our lives. And when I started TomTom with 4 people in '92, there was 4 of us, 3 guys and I. We started making software already in those times. And then we invented the famous sat-nav. And you know that we sold about 100 million. And every time it was driven by, this can be done better. You know, there was navigation in cars, it was complex to use, reserved for an elite, and we thought this can be done better. And as entrepreneurs, that's what you do. You see a problem, and you use technology to make things better and easier. And that's how we were driving at TomTom, and I'm so happy today that actually we're one of the sponsors, and I'm so happy, Bianca, for this initiative and being able to talk in front of all our people and people that we have a big office in Rouge. We have about 1,000 developers in Rouge. Unfortunately, not enough women yet, but hopefully after today we'll have a lot more. I'm a great believer in women in technology. And why is that? Because to solve problems, and to solve the problems of tomorrow, you need to have people who think differently. We need different diversity in gender, we need diversity in culture. And women will play a very big part in that. Because technology is there to solve some of the issues we've seen before, and I think that women have different ways of looking at the problems. So I think that's key, that we bring more women, and I think there is hope. Some of the figures were pretty gloomy that we heard this morning, but today at Stanford in the US, computer science is the most chosen major by women. So most women, the major that they choose is computer science, and you see in Stanford and Berkeley, actually in the US, that there is a rise in women choosing computer science. And that's going to be our way of creating and writing the future, because everything we're doing is going digital, everywhere. Not only at TomTom we are, we are working on very complex technology. We're doing real-time map making, real-time traffic information. We are designing software for autonomous driving, for the cars of the future. Very meaty, complex problems we're trying to solve. But the world is facing very crucial problems. And if you look at in medicine and in energy, we need technology. And we need, and the point has been made this morning, we can't only be fishing in the male population. We need a lot more women to come and join us. So that's sort of bit of a strive for more women. And that's the reason why, as an entrepreneur, one of the problems for innovation is lack of talent. There aren't enough people and digital visionaries, if you want, for the future. There's not enough programmers. Software is eating the world. Software is what we need. There's not enough people. And that's the reason why, seeing that as an entrepreneur, I decided to create a coding school. And that coding school is a not-for-profit. It's based on peer-to-peer learning, and I want to have 50% of women in that school. It's based on a program that was set up in France called École 42, and we're doing a 3.5-year course very deep in programming. So we start with C, C++, and then you can branch out into different branches. And I've created an environment in the school where women feel comfortable, and we really encourage women to come and join us. But it's the same for TomTom. Today we have about 30% of women within the organization. We have about 6,000 people across the world, but not enough women coming through the ranks in top position, and not enough women in leading tech lead or developers. And that's an area that we really want to improve. So how do we do this within the organization? I'm really encouraging our women developers and the women engineers to speak up, to find sponsors within the organization, and really to come to us so we can take them and help them with their career and make sure they make it to the top of the organization. So I just have a few minutes, and I want to conclude on my takeout and why I think technology is important. I've been running a tech company for the last 30 years. And I've seen change. I've seen more and more women coming through, and I know that to solve the problems of tomorrow, we also need that sensitivity. What I would say to women is the first few years of your careers, you should take risk, because entrepreneurship and solving problems is about doing things that have not been done before. It's about taking risk. It's about innovating. And you should not be worried about taking risk, about putting yourself out there, about working for solving the type of problems that are dear to you. If you're passionate about medicine, if you're passionate about energy, if you're passionate about mobility, go and find the organization that appeals to something that motivates you. Then make sure you work with companies which values you can share, and with people and teams that you respect and are working on serious issues. You will find a job. If you're here in this room passionate about science, technology, you'll find a job. The shortage of scientists, technology, engineers is massive. You'll find a job anywhere in the world. And I think that's important, that you feel confident about putting yourself forward and making sure you work for those companies that appeal most to the problem you want to solve. The other thing I think technology brings, equal opportunities. We're living in a world that's known a lot of peace in the last, certainly the longest time of peace, but it's a very fragile equilibrium. And I think science and technologies will give everyone a chance. And you women here in the room, we need to make sure as women that we give our children, we leave our children the world that we want them to live in. And technology will help solve some of the biggest problems in the world. And here as women, you have a chance of writing that future, and writing that future for your children, and making sure they live in a world that you want and have a legacy and solve the problems for them and the rest of the world. You can make a difference. People in engineering, people in science, women in engineering, women in science will make the difference. You will make the difference, and you will leave a world that your children are going to want to live in, safe, and will care with all the world problems. So you're it. Believe in yourself. That's been said before. Like the ambassador, I came from a very modest background. I paid myself through my studies. We started with 4 people. We built a company throughout the world. And now I am kind of giving back a little bit with creating that school. One day when you're successful, when you've made it, also think about giving that hand back to other women. There is a place in hell, Madeleine Albright says, for women who don't help other women. We should help each other. We need to create a community. We need to make sure that sometimes we can be each other's worst enemy. let's not judge each other. You know, let's just help each other and make sure that together we do tackle the problems of tomorrow and have a good balance between men and women. You can make it if you're here, you believe in technology and the future is yours. Go and write that future. Thank you.